Okay, hi everybody. Hey, just a reminder, we have more food in there, and make sure you get a dessert. I won't be offended if you get up while I'm speaking. Go get your food, go get your refill on your drink, and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. That way we can get you out of here by 1 o'clock, okay? So I do want to say, just so that everyone understands, this is a 36-member board. We get one member from each community in the county, 7 members from each county. And so that each equals 35, right? I wasn't bad on my math there. But we have one person that's appointed by the governor, and the governor's never really appointed anyone to our board, but it's been a long-standing tradition me and the governor have. But that's how our board is kind of set up. I just always like to kind of reiterate that. But our executive board does a lot of the heavy lifting for SIDC. And so those guys should be commended for what they do for SIDC, because they're out there. They've got to sign, we've got to catch them every 2 weeks to sign checks, sign contracts, review different documents, things like that we're putting in front of them, and help us like when we got to buy a copier or buy a laptop or things like that. We've got to pull them in to do that kind of stuff. So I just want to say that I appreciate them for being willing to, meet at a moment's notice, or, well, within a 48-hour window following the open door laws to meet. And then I just really appreciate them doing that kind of work for us. And I know I bug them a lot, but they're really good for giving me information. So we appreciate them. I am going to have everyone go around and introduce themselves. I want to do this because we've got 2 new employees here at SIDC. And so this will be a lot of your first times meeting them.
No, I stuck them out at the front door.
You stuck them out at the front door, so that you got to meet everyone there. So you've got it all locked in.
We're going to test them later.
Yeah. So I'm going to start here with, I'm going to have Jill and Jolene go first, and then that way I can. So Jill?
Yeah. I'm Jill Kinzer. I'm the project specialist. I'm going to be doing a little bit of everything, but main focus on land banking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever have anything, you can email me, call, text, whatever.
Go ahead, Jolene.
All right. Hi, I'm Jolene. I'm a development specialist, so hopefully I will be out in your communities and seeing what your projects are, needs are, and getting started on all of those fun things, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're 3 weeks in, so I'm excited.
So Jolene actually was an intern for SIDC back in the 2000s.
When I started.
Yeah, when Rhonda started. So, yeah, it was one of those where when we're in the interview process and you're sitting across from her, you're going, boy, you look so familiar. I don't know how I know you, but I know you. But yeah, it was an internship she had with SIDC way back in the day when Joe Arthur was around.
Yes.
So.
Where's that too?
It says more about you than her.
Right. So, but yeah, they're both coming in, and they've hit the ground running, and really, there's a lot to get done, a lot to get us caught up on, but it feels good to be fully staffed now, for the most part, and get folks like Matt and Rex replaced, and get us moving on into the next generation that can take over from me. So let's go around the room so that they know who's here. So.
Teresa Sparks,
Mm-hmm.
Charles Sparks, visitor.
All right.
Susie Roach, down in Bowden.
Betty Raitland from Offensville.
Yeah.
Robert Raven from Offensville.
Katie Brown, Town of Offordsville.
Mary Checker off.
Peter Reitmeyer, Knox County.
CJ Parsons, Town of Crane.
Tom Schaefer, Davies County Council. Larry Waters, Mayor of Jasonville.
Jerry Waters, his wife.
Nathan Jenkins, Mayor of Midland.
Wally Brown, Lawrence County. Rodney Fish, Lawrence County Commissioner.
Julie Hewinson, Wilson County Council.
Neil DeLong, County, Word County.
Noel Hardy, Steve Lagodi.
Dave Ladd, Martin County.
Mike Haley, Town of Montgomery.
Keith Martin, Town of Edwardsport.
Steve Kerr, Town of Oneida Council.
Randall Brown, Green County Council.
Scott Yoho, Town Council.
Okay. 2 back in the corner there.
Margaret did, Town of Dewberry.
Sanford.
Janice Taylor, SIDC.
Michelle Erica, SIDC.
Jenny Deerwester, SIDC.
Dave Rhodes, Mayor, City of Washington.
Michael Johnson, Town of Monroe City.
Joe Yoakum, Vincent's mayor.
Rhonda Rumpel, SIDC.
Skip Jolene.
Heather Davis, Town of Elmore.
And then?
Jane Cooper Smith, CDFI Friendly Bloomington. Don't hold it against me.
Yeah, see, we're bringing in all these Bloomington folks for you guys.
Don't forget ours.
Oh, we got our, yes, we've got Iris in the back window there. She is on crutches, so we let her sit in a special location. And she's also working the recording of this. We're going to try and start getting these things out on recording out on our YouTube page. That way, if anyone wants to hear this again, they can go out and watch it. But also make sure the public knows what we're doing. So, and I just want to make mention of Dan Reitmeyer. He's got the Eclipse T-shirts on that are for sale in Knox County. So if you want to, we got the Eclipse coming through the year. Oh, nice. So, okay, let's get into some business here, and we'll move on to, there's a consideration of minutes. We had the full board minutes of May 17th of 2023. We had the executive board minutes of May 17th and July 24th. Any questions on any of those minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Wally. All right, any questions, concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right. So I'm going to get into the executive director report and do a big brain dump of everything I think you guys need to know about that's happening in the area. So start off with the SIDC Land Bank. It's a big hallelujah because we've got that finally up and organized. We've jumped all the legal hoops that we could jump, and we've got just everything set up. And so now we're up and operating the land bank where we're going through and inventorying properties right now. So, you know, anytime you want to send us a list of properties for us to look at, send that over to Jill, and we'll be taking a look at those properties. We're setting up the software. We purchased the software. We're setting it all up now that we'll be able to, we'll inventory all the properties on it. And then once we start to own properties and put them out there, it'll go up on that website there. That'll just be linked to the SIDC one. And then hopefully it'll be something that each of the counties and communities will be willing to link to the land bank, you know, in their web pages as well. So we're excited. USDA 1% loans for distressed communities. So USDA, you know, is that 40-year lender that's out there, but right now 1% loans don't sound real bad. And so especially if you pay them off a little bit early. They are only for, let's see, 5 different locations in our 5-county area. So Newberry, Scotland, Edwardsport, the Lyons area, and then Heltonville area for Lawrence County, and then the Bicknell area over Knox County. So I just want to make you guys aware of that right now. Like if you've got projects, now's probably the time to be considering those because of the interest rate that you guys would be willing to get on it. So just want to make sure you guys are aware there. Ready 2.0, of course, that announcement came out. I mean, this is meant to attract public-private investment. And so I think it will be slightly different from how the Ready 1.0 went in the region. I think there will be more involvement from IEDC on what projects get selected. There was a big regional selection on the projects in Ready 1.0. So they're really looking hard at bricks and sticks, construction projects on this, and not so much at programmatic things. Now, hopefully enough people that complain about, you know, sometimes you need to fund programs in order to get to the bricks and sticks. we'll be out there to kind of, maybe that'll change their mind on how they're going to spend the money, or maybe they'll get in a bind on spending the money. But, I'm hopeful that there'll be some programmatic expenses that they're willing to do on this funding, but really they're kind of holding too firm right now. Like, we're looking for construction projects. And so, that may mean housing, that may mean other types of construction that you guys want to get going on. So if you've got your ideas, of course, ROI is kind of the person from the area for 4 of our counties, and then for Knox County, it's the Southwest Indiana group there. So just make sure you're staying close and talking to them on that as well. I wanted to get into a little bit of the Ochre bonus program, because Ochre's just kind of announced this where, like, there's not enough hurdles to jump with Ochre. They've added a few more for you. But they're really looking at lead line replacement and green projects that have some sort of sustainability component to them, which, some of you that have operated wastewater treatment systems and things like that kind of know those things sometimes work and sometimes don't, or it depends on the time of year when they work and when they don't. So mechanical plants sometimes work better all year long, but there'll be some things out there for, that's more like stormwater projects. Maybe you could do some things on the green stuff. And then, of course, on the non-point source projects. So it's, the things that are getting into your streams and rivers and aquifers that shouldn't be getting in there, from farm runoff to chemicals or whatever else from manufacturing and things like that. So I've given you some documents behind there on some of the programs on that they're looking at with it. There is, for lead service lines, there is funding out there right now. And it's to do assessments of those lead lines, and I think it's also galvanized lines. Yeah, galvanized pipe service lines. Those can also be looked at. Go ahead, see it.
What about asbestos lines?
They don't make mention of it, but it would be good to have the conversation on. I guess they're probably assuming that there aren't asbestos lines, but Crane's always special. So in the future, everyone will need to have a lead assessment done. So if you're not thinking about doing a lead assessment, you should be thinking about doing a lead assessment, and you should be trying to apply for the funding. I think it's February of next year is when those applications would be due, February 5th. I'm sorry, I put there February 5th of 2023 on there. I made an error. So you can dock my pay on that. The 2024 is when that's going to be. Make a note of that. But go get the money to do the inventory, and then there will be another round, I believe, where they will give you money to help fix some of those issues. So, and it's with the Indiana Finance Authority on that. So if you need help with the application process, let us know. We may be able to walk you through that. Hopefully it's something that you'd be able to handle, but you never know how squirrely the applications will be. So that just needs to be on your radar. Wanted to talk a little bit about our fellows. See, I wasn't forgetting them. They were just part of the agenda here. But we have Iris O'Donnell, and she's been working with us. It's getting close to 2 years now. Her last day is in
2 weeks?
2 weeks. Yeah. So she has been really doing a lot of our broadband services out of SIDC, keeping everyone informed of what's happening with broadband, helping out with digital literacy. So if you'd seen, she's been in probably everybody's library doing digital literacy classes around the region. I think she had the most fun over in Jasonville. So, but she's been doing those type of projects for us and really trying to make sure our region is ready for the next phase of broadband, because it's not just about having the broadband piping in the ground or through the sky or whatever. It's also about helping people understand how to use the tools that are available to them. What we're seeing, there's been some studies done by the Purdue Center for Regional Development, and quite honestly, it's lower income white Americans are falling behind in digital literacy faster than from any of the other populations. So you may have some lower income white residents in your area, down in this area, and so that means some of your constituents are falling behind in that way. And so pushing that literacy is going to be an important initiative in this area. So making sure you guys are aware there. She's also applied for a broadband grant with the Knox County task force that they have there. And so if they actually get that done, they'll be able to do digital literacy workshops, and then they're going to create devices, like 20 different devices for people doing the digital literacy participants, and then run that program through the Knox County Broadband Task Force. And that can be a replicable program for any other county to kind of do. She's moving on to a new job, but she'll still be close because she's working for Lead for America, which is, she's been our Lead for America representative, and they liked her so much and what knowledge that she has, they have moved her up into Lead for America to be a kind of a liaison for different states. So she's going to be doing that, but she's also going to be training everyone on digital literacy. So all the knowledge that she gained from helping everyone out here in this room, she's going to be using then for other states and for other people to be able to go out and do in other regions. So kind of a nice full circle thing there for her to be doing those things. She helped us do a broadband summit because, man, I couldn't have done it on my own. But she came in and did a broadband summit for us, which a lot of you participated in, where we learned a lot about BEAD funding, digital equity. But we had Graham Fishel with the Federal Programs Officer with NTIA, and then Ernie Holtree with the State Broadband Office, and then Melinda Grimmer with the PCRD, the Community. Yeah, and so they came in and talked a lot about that stuff, and that was a big feather in the cap for SIDC to be able to get that knowledge down to the residents here. But it also, I think it was really well received at the state that we were doing something like that down here in southern Indiana. There's some links on the report, and we'll send this out after the meeting, the executive director report. That way you can just click on the links if you want to go to any of those. But there's some different maps that talks about the digital equity, digital asset mapping, digital divide index. So this will give you some information about your communities going on those different maps. And then if you do want to challenge what's going on with broadband or what someone's services, then there's a challenge map there. We're going to be doing an exercise later on, but I'll talk about it later. But the information we collect here will also go back to that challenge map. So we're going to be losing Iris, but we're looking at trying to get another, it's a AmeriCorps fellow to come in and take on special projects for SIDC. And so we're going through that interview process right now, trying to find people to be able to come in and do that in our region. We are not finding anyone from our region that is wanting to do that for SIDC. I'll say we haven't really been advertising all that much. It hasn't really been out there for that long. But there's benefits to being an AmeriCorps person, that, health benefits, it's a paid position, and they get to go in and help out communities. They get scholarships.
It's called a Siegel Education Award.
Siegel Education Award, and then they also they get loads of training for them to be able to tackle lots of community issues. That's really what made it attractive to me, is we were getting people that were college educated, that they're going to be highly trained and they can come in and kind of do different programs for SIDC outside of our regular operations. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. If you know of anyone that you think would make a good candidate for that, would be interested in it, it's a great kind of starting point for a lot of folks. And then they get some education credits, and yeah, it's just good on their resume, and it's a way of helping communities out. So they get to work with us and all of you. So
Are you looking for somebody that's a college grad already, or somebody that's in
Oh,
college? Or
someone in college, I would say, have some college experience. I think they can work with. They've done people right out of high school. They don't like to do that right out of high school. Some college experience, I think, would be appropriate.
You'd think there'd be people, wouldn't you? I mean, you think there'd be, but like I said, you have.
Yeah, and it's a lot of paperwork too, which we're fine with paperwork, but not everybody. So I'm gonna give a plug for the Indiana Economic Development Association. They are trying to do a study for the state of Indiana that's on the economic benefits of childcare. And that's, I think, a big study that everybody needs to have at their disposal when they're, looking at different funding sources or just trying to change legislation on what would be available in the future. And so they're looking for folks to kind of sponsor them a little bit on that study. They're needing, it's not a huge amount of money, but if a lot chip in a little bit, then I think they'll get that match. And I think they're looking for $200 or $500 or something like that out of folks for that way. So if you see your economic development directors, maybe that's probably the right avenue to kind of help them out, because they're typically members of the IEDA. But that's a good way of getting that study done for all the state of Indiana, and then we'll be able to use that information to try and advocate for more childcare in our regions. So, especially with the amount of jobs that are going to be created over the next couple of years, especially at Westgate and over in Knox County, yeah, you're going to need it. So, Department of Defense. So this has been something I've been working with more and more, is the Office of Local Defense Community Collaboration, because they have money. Like, that is not an organization that their budget goes up every year. Like, we watch Okra and folks like that, and their budgets have been flatlined for I don't know how many years. But Department of Defense put a lot of money behind community resiliency style projects. And so I just keep sniffing around that funding source to see if there's any way of getting money down into our different regions. Right now, we're doing a military installation resiliency review, trying to do a grant to do that. That'll tell us the effects of climate change on the communities that kind of surround the base of Crane. But part of that is we've also said that we would like for you to do a study on developable housing, because housing is a resiliency issue. If you don't have enough housing, you don't have places for people to live and work, then it becomes an issue in the region. And so we're adding some components of housing into that study that'll be going on over the next 18 months. And so just look for, any opportunities to participate in those studies as they come out for your communities. But what will come out of it will be a lot of good information on housing and where to put housing around your communities. And then also there will be a component where we'll be training local developers to ramp up from doing 5 homes a year to doing 50 homes a year to doing 100 homes a year. That way we have local homegrown developers that can be raised up out of the community that way. And I think that's what most people want. They want developers from the region that they know and see and do business with on the daily anymore, and then grow them up in the region, because it's really hard to attract people down here. So, and then the last thing I had was the Safe Streets for All. So Federal Highway the government created funds, an infrastructure, a bipartisan infrastructure bill that gave money to a program called Safe Streets for All. What they want all the communities to do is to do a transportation study on each of the counties. This would look at your most, the intersections where you have the most crashes, the intersections that are the most dangerous, and see what kind of, put a plan together, a prioritization plan on taking care of those locations. Once you have the study done, then they're going to have rounds that will actually put money towards fixing those problems that are on your priority list. But you have to have a priority list first. So I've sent this out earlier in the year, and I got no response from anybody. Everybody's busy. I understand that, and probably if they would have said yes, I might not have had the time to do it. But I'm anticipating in the future that there'll be another round of funding on this Safe Streets for All for that planning. And I don't think we should miss a second opportunity on it. So if you have any influence or you think that's a good idea, that may be someone to talk to your street departments or your highway department guys and gals and see if they would be interested in doing having that kind of a study on their area. So
It's for streets and not a trail, right?
right, yeah. Unless you have a lot of crashes on a trail.
You see him drive.
Well, yeah, yeah, he's got all the hiking sticks, so, yeah. Okay, I don't have anything else on my executive director report. You guys got any questions for me on anything I covered there? Okay. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jane, who's with CDFI Friendly. She's gonna explain what that is. And I'll just say, you've gotta hear it twice sometimes for it to fully sink in. But let's get the first time out of the way, and then we can try and go from there. So
Yeah.
Jane, I'm turning it over to you.
Well, what an introduction. It is kind of a complicated organization, but I'll just start by saying I'm really happy to be here. And I know that our small towns and small businesses are the heart of our state and our economy.
Yep.
So it's really great to just be part of this today. And I come to economic development by way of small business ownership up in Bloomington. And it's just super important to me. So our organization is super poorly named. It's CDFI Friendly Bloomington, but we actually support a 13-county region. So we support the Indiana Uplands plus Morgan and Jackson. So we don't hit Knox County, but there's another CDFI Friendly organization in Evansville that would scoop Knox County. So just know that we're kind of coming up everywhere, and we'll support you even if you don't, play or fit into our region. So
The CDFI.
yeah, I'm coming to it. So CDFI, what the heck is a CDFI? It's a community development financial institution. And they're basically nonprofit lenders. They jump in into all kinds of different projects where banks kind of won't participate or can't participate. It could be because it's a complex capital stack on an affordable housing project, or it could be because it's a small business borrower who has, not a great credit history or whatever. I mean, they're really flexible. They have expertise in all kinds of different areas. And so we undertook a study with the city of Bloomington, the Community Foundation of Bloomington Monroe County, ROI, and I think the Ellettsville Chamber, a bunch of different groups in 2017 undertook this study to see if we even were getting enough CDFI investment in our region. And they found out that they didn't think we were. In the 10 years up to 2017, we had $5 million in investment in the Uplands region. And then they decided, as a way to address that, we don't want to create our own CDFI because that's like building a new lender, and that would be just too much infrastructure. So they started a lean nonprofit. It's lean because, you're looking at the nonprofit. And so we operate in a couple different ways. We network nationally with all these different community development lenders. We do all this relationship building to try to figure out what kinds of projects do they lend on, where do they lend, who can operate in our region, who do they best support. And then we try to operate locally to get to know our communities and what projects are out there, and to kind of just try to do that relationship building so that, if you're getting stuck on, a housing development, or you get a small business person you really want to support them, but they're just getting no's from the bank, what do you want to do? Because that's really important for your communities to be able to retain these small business owners. So we do that networking, and then we offer technical assistance. So in Bloomington, I'm sure you guys are having this out here too, we're finding that we have a really high need for affordable housing developments. We're finding that we can't attract developers, or it's hard to attract developers out of Indianapolis. People are getting enough business in Indianapolis or other regions. I know Washington is a hot spot, so you guys might not be having the troubles that we are, but so we're sharing a lot of technical expertise to try to help locals become developers, to try to build homegrown developers. So we operate in all kinds of different areas. In these CDFIs, the way that they work is that they have to identify a target audience or a target area. So that could be a geography. So maybe they only work in Idaho. We don't care about those CDFIs. We're not going to talk to them. But a lot of them will say, we support childcare facilities in 50 states. Well, we want to know about those people, and we want to make sure that they know about us too. So CDFIs are great, but because they're community development first, their cost to lend is high, and so their interest rates tend to be a little high. So we have a $4.25 million capital enhancement fund so that we can bring down that cost of lending or cost of borrowing from your perspective on projects. So if the CDFI partner comes in at 6% with $1 million, we come in at 3%, then the borrower walks away in the middle. So, like Greg said, it's complicated, but I think the big takeaway is just if you have projects that are getting stuck or people that you're having trouble supporting, just know that we have technical expertise, and we're operating in the region, and we want to try to bring this capital investment to you. So the takeaway, I guess, going back to that 5 million statistic, we were established in 2019, and since 2019, we've incented $24.5 million of investment from these CDFIs in our region. For all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah. So this will be one of the programs that we talk to our developers about on housing, and maybe even childcare. But we really look for a community focus on the lending, but it could also be small businesses, or even government.
And cooperatives. I don't know if you have any farm co-ops in your communities, but we've been working a lot with a co-op in Bloomington, and then we found a CDFI that works only exclusively with co-ops, and that was really important because they couldn't sign a personal guarantee. Like if they had a whole co-op board, they weren't all going to put their houses up for it. So we were able to help them find a workaround by using this other group. And then the other so we do this technical assistance, we do this networking, we do this capital enhancement fund, and then we do some program management too. So you all know about the Brownfields program through SIDC, and we've scooped another round of that funding for the region. So that would be everybody again but Knox County, which really stinks. But hopefully you got in on that first round. So the SIDC grant wraps up.
Yeah, we've got all of our projects identified right now, and we're just completing them out right now. And they'll be closing out in October. September, even sooner.
And then our grant proposal included some corridors in Bedford. I know specifically, I remember Bedford was in this area, but I can't remember. Was it you guys?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. My husband was a teacher at BNL for 8 years, so I spent a lot of time down there. I really like it. Yeah. So anyway, so we do that as well.
Yeah, and so just because SIDC doesn't have EPA assessment dollars, CDFI friendly does now. And so that, if you have projects, again, even Alfredsville, you guys got a school building, you need to be assessed, some things like that. So it's, there's a lot of projects that are still out there that SIDC wasn't able to touch. Most of the time, those difficult to reach projects are the ones where we've got homeowners or property owners that don't want to do something with their buildings, but you keep working away at them.
Yeah. The last thing, so I'm not talking too much, but I really appreciate that you introduced me as CDFI friendly, because I think that's really what the organization is. So we might rebrand and get the Bloomington out of our name.
Yeah.
But also, I've only been in this job 6 months, so this is my first time coming down here to meet with SIDC in person, but I hope we all get to know each other and that you get used to seeing me around. The last guy was in Cleveland. I don't know how you're supposed to do Indiana economic development from Cleveland, but he was pretty good at it, relatively speaking, but this seems better.
But she's a fascinating person to talk to. She's got good topics on roller derby. She's going to expand a lot of things there, and just extreme sports and that kind of stuff. So so hit her up after the meeting and chat her ear off. So.
All right, thanks for your time.
Yep, thanks. Okay. This is our typical portion of our community needs discussion. Is there anything that's going on in your guys' communities that you need SIDC to be aware of, to look into, or anything like that?
Are all of the trail grants right now, are they, if there are any available, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're gonna apply for a trail grant, it needs to go from point A to point B. It's just not gonna be, the likelihood of just getting a block funded would be very hard.
Right, that would be very hard.
Wood Street, which I can talk about that later, but Wood
Okay.
Street from the elementary,
Yeah.
that road, some of our running teams
Mm-hmm.
utilize that, and it's been a repeat over the years. So I think maybe we ought to actually do something
Okay.
with that street. So
Yeah.
maybe we can
Okay.
look at it. I mean,
Yeah.
I still don't know that it would be a stretch to qualify for probably from point A to point B. But
Yeah, and the state's been better about funding trails. I mean, but it also, there's a lot of, the easements are the issue. Trails in cities is difficult. And it's certainly whenever you're using NDOT and you're trying to do, trail is not a 3-foot path. It is a 5-foot or larger path. And when you try and do that around people's properties and they lose their trees and they lose some of those things, they get kind of upset about that stuff. But if you've got, trails that are worked like Odin, I know that you guys always have a trail project you guys want to work on, and Alfredsville talked about some sidewalks and stuff like that there. And so it's, I tell you what, we'll put together a 1-pager or 2-pager or something like that on trail funding for Indiana, and then try and send that out to the board, okay? Go ahead, CJ.
Is there a dividing line on a trail versus a path?
Yeah, it's the width for the most part. Well, I guess it's a sidewalk versus a trail. Trail versus a path is the same thing, but a sidewalk versus a trail, 3 foot for a sidewalk, 5 foot minimum for a trail. And so there's advanced engineering that has to be done on a lot of the trails, and that gets into, it gets costly for the engineering to kind of put those kind of things together. Because you'll be using state money on those trails, and so they want it to be engineered to the state standards. So that adds a little bit of cost to it. A lot of times you can go out there and build a trail pretty easily, volunteer help, that kind of stuff. But when you start adding state money into it, then it becomes a problem. Okay. All right. So Jolene's got some stuff to do, right? She's got to do the, yeah.
To get a perspective from everybody in the room here, has anybody else addressed the new legislation requiring requirements on video recordings of government meetings. Goes into effect January 1. We're all sitting around waiting.
We're waiting for Lawrence County to do it first, and then we'll follow you.
I was under the impression it was further out. I thought
Oh.
it was 2025. That's what I thought.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, I think it was 2025.
okay.
Forget it.
No, we're starting to review that though. We're starting to get, our ducks in a row for that.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah,
So I'm at Greene County, and the Greene County Council and the Greene County Commissioners are all being recorded right now and put online on YouTube, every one of our meetings. It's being run by our county attorney we hired. So Marvin Abshire is his name, because he's a legal person, he wants to be out in front of this. The issue we're having is that I think the legislation said that if any public meeting happens in the room, it's gotta be recorded. And we're broadcasting it, we can broadcast live, we can do whatever. So we're out there doing it at Greene County, and sometimes it works, and sometimes we have to record it and put it out there later. But all of our meetings right now are being recorded and archived and all of that in accordance with the law. I don't know what kind of equipment it took, I'm new to the council, I don't know how much of a job it is for him. I see him working on it. When we go in, he's getting it all set up and everything, so for what it's worth, yeah,
Well, we do record our meetings, but anybody that's watched them knows you can't hear it, so I mean,
Right.
that's the issue.
I got a question. Does that pertain to anything that is transpired within the courthouse in the commissioner's office, whether it's an RDC or?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
we're under the impression it's any public called meeting.
That's held within that room.
Yeah, like
So
we,
it required notification, 48-hour
Yeah,
notification.
right.
any of those, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm here early.
Well, that's okay.
But we got to start.
You want to get it done before you
I'm
leave,
here.
right? Okay, we're getting close on time here, and I want to get you out. If there's anything else, just email me or anyone on the staff, and we'll try and put a trail package together so you guys can understand quickly what types of funding are out there on that kind of stuff. That may be one of those where it's just a foundation issue. You go to the foundation and try and work with
Yeah,
them.
I mean,
And
I honestly think we might be able to, like you said, I mean, probably one street of
Yeah.
sidewalks, $5 million now.
well, and CDFI will loan you the money for it. So
We'll find somebody.
yeah. Okay, we got our next meeting on November 15th, right back here. We may do something a little special for it, but it'll be in here. I think we're approaching our 50-year anniversary, so we're not going to do a big blowout or anything like that. But funny hats or something. I don't know. We haven't decided what we'll do. Open bar. There'll be a cooler outside.
No moves.
Okay, and then one of the next to last items is our broadband mapping. So we talked about how we need to be telling the state's Office of Broadband where their maps are getting it wrong. And so they said we could do that as simple and as rudimentary as possible. You print off some maps and you circle areas that you think that there's not service. Or it shows service and it's not being serviced. So that could be cell service. When you drive around your county, where do you drop calls at? Circle those areas. If you know of communities or residents in your area that complain about this part of your county that doesn't have internet or viable internet from somebody, circle that area. So in the back room here, we've got tables set up for each of the counties to kind of be at, and then it pulls out some of the larger communities on it. If you will go back into there, we'll clean up the tables. But if you'll go and look at those maps, and if you know of any of those areas, circle them with a marker, and then we'll have people at each of the tables, and we'll kind of take notes on what you guys are saying, and we will turn that into the state. Okay? All right? Everybody understand? First things first is you gotta get in that back room over here, okay? After that, it all gets easier.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thought maybe I'd be able to hand some cards out.
Yeah.